You know, every great business, every single world-changing idea, it's really built on the answer to just one critical question. It's a question so fundamental, it can pretty much predict success or failure before a single dollar is ever even made.
And that question is simply this: who do we serve? Now, this isn't just about marketing slogans or, some target demographic on a spreadsheet. No, this is the foundational strategic choice. If you get this right, you build a legend. But if you get it wrong, well, you build a cautionary tale. And today, we're going to look at what happens when two companies answer this exact question in dramatically different ways.
All right, so first up, let's dive into the path that seems so seductive, so appealing, but is actually incredibly dangerous. And that's the path of trying to be everything to everyone. Our case study for this one, a company that was, for a moment, the fastest growing in history. Groupon.
I mean, you have to remember, back in 2010, Groupon was an absolute rocket ship. They basically invented the daily deal. And their model couldn't have been simpler: offer massive discounts on absolutely everything for absolutely everyone. We're talking luxury spas, fast food joints, yoga studios. If you could sell it, they'd discount it. Their answer to who do we serve was the entire market. And for a little while, it honestly seemed like genius.
But here's exactly where the cracks started to show. Groupon was trying to serve two completely different people at the exact same time. Just think about it for a second. The customer who's looking for 50% off a high-end spa day is coming from a totally different place than the person who's just grabbing a cheap pizza, right? One person values brand and the whole experience, the other just wants the lowest possible price. By trying to please both, Groupon was on a path to satisfying neither.
And you can probably guess what happened next. The fallout was fast and it was brutal. High-end businesses felt like their brands were being cheapened. Restaurants were literally losing money, swamped by one-time customers who had zero intention of ever coming back without another crazy discount. Loyal regular patrons were pushed aside by bargain hunters, and pretty soon all the best businesses just walked away.
And the result of all this? Well, after a massive IPO, Groupon's value just collapsed. A staggering 85% gone in just 3 years. The engine they built to serve everyone, it ran out of gas because it had no loyal core to keep it going.
It all comes down to this really simple, powerful truth. In their quest to capture the entire market, they completely failed to build any meaningful relationship with any part of it. It's a huge lesson in the price you pay for not making a choice.
So if serving everyone is a trap, what's the alternative? What's the playbook that actually works? Well, it's the counterintuitive power of doing the exact opposite, choosing to serve a tiny, specific niche and just serving them perfectly. And for that story, we're going to turn to Airbnb. This idea right here, this is the principle that guided Airbnb to massive success. And it's the perfect contrast to Groupon's whole approach. See, instead of chasing after everybody, they focused on making a small group of people so passionate, so thrilled, that those people couldn't help but tell everyone else.
But you got to remember, in the beginning, this looked like a terrible strategy. Back in 2008, investors rejected Brian Chesky's idea over and over again. The feedback was always the same. The market of people willing to sleep in a stranger's house was just too small to be interesting. The entire world was telling them to think bigger, to go after a broader market.
But here's what they did instead. They ignored the entire travel market, and they focused obsessively on one tiny little group, design conference attendees in New York. They went deep. They personally met with hosts and guests, and they learned that this specific group didn't just want a cheap room. They wanted unique spaces, authentic local connections. So they refined everything just for them: the photography, the messaging, the whole experience. And the result? They got 1,000 passionate users who became their evangelists, building the foundation for the global company we all know today.
So you see, the stories of Groupon and Airbnb, these aren't just one-off anecdotes. They actually reveal a really powerful truth about how business works. A narrow, almost obsessive focus is nearly always the winning strategy, especially when you're just starting out.
And this brings us to this key concept: the smallest viable audience. Now, let's be clear, this isn't about limiting your ambition or thinking small. It's about finding the smallest group you can serve so perfectly that they become the kindling for a much larger fire. They're the group that will sustain you. And even more importantly, they're the ones who will spread your story for you.
And hey, don't think for a second this is just a problem for startups. Having an unclear answer to who do we serve can cripple even the biggest giants in an industry. I mean, just look at the story of Yahoo.
Let's rewind to 1998.
Yahoo was, well, they were the internet. They were the king. But what were they exactly? A media company? A tech company? An ad company? They were trying to be everything. And on the other side, you had this little company called Google, with a vision so focused it was almost boring. Organize the world's information. That's it. Yahoo famously passed on the chance to buy Google because they couldn't see the power in that narrow focus. And well, we all know how that story ended. Yahoo's value just cratered, while Google's laser focus built one of the most valuable companies on Earth.
So, okay, how do you actually do this? How can you put this into practice? The playbook is actually pretty simple, but it's incredibly powerful. First, you identify that smallest group of people who will truly love what you do. Then, you don't just serve them. You obsess over solving their one specific problem better than anyone else on the planet. And if you do that right, you'll create an experience so good that you empower them to become your sales force.
And that really brings this whole thing back around, doesn't it? Back to all of us. Because whether you're building a company, a small project, or just your own career, this choice is always right in front of you. When you really strip it all away, the choice is pretty simple. The temptation to broaden your appeal, to chase every single opportunity, it's huge. But as we've just seen, that's usually a trap. The more powerful path, the one that builds something lasting, is the focused one. To serve a specific someone so perfectly that your work becomes undeniable.
So, the question I'll leave you with is this. What future will you dare to build? Will it be one of broad appeal but maybe shallow impact? Or will it be a future built on a deep, meaningful connection with the people you have specifically chosen to serve? The choice is yours.